And it's about that time I need to say a very special welcome to our guest this week. He has been blowing up the scene, dropping truth bombs left, right, and centre. I've seen him in a number of interviews, and he has left people with open jaws. He's been telling the truth about what we call the Soviet Union. We're going to be talking about psyop. I welcome and I say hello to Mr. Chris Guy. Chris, how you doing, bro?
I'm all right, guys. How are you today?
Good evening, very good. Do we sound okay?
Well, yeah, I was supposed to be talking to you guys from Edmonton, Alberta right now, but I went to the airport this morning to fly out there because I'm supposed to be at a rally in Edmonton on Saturday and Calgary on Sunday. And I booked on Swoop Airlines, which is like a tiny Canadian airline. And I went there, and as soon as I walked in the airport and I walked up to the front and I tried to check in, they had a manager walk up to me and tell me my reservation had been canceled. Like, literally.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. Then she told me that it had been emailed to me and I had been emailed a cancellation and a refund. So I took her word for it and I left. But then when I got to my car, I checked. There was no email, no nothing, no notification. So I went back and I asked her to show it to me. And she had nothing to show me. She went through her phone and tried to find it. There was no notification, no nothing. They literally just saw me, recognized me, and said, "Sorry, Chris Guy, you're not allowed to fly within your own home country on a domestic flight." Then the police showed up. And I made the police. I videotaped them, told them what was going on, told them I'm going to turn off the video, let them look at my phone. I'm going to show them my email and show them all my spam folders, everything, and show that nobody had sent me anything that say that my reservation had been canceled. I'm like, if they had, there's no way I would have wasted my time waking up at 5 a.m. and coming to the airport. So sure enough, I showed the police. I tried to videotape them. One of the officers didn't want to talk, and he tried to walk off the camera. So I videotaped again. And the other officer, who was a fan of mine and knew exactly who I was, he admitted, he's like, I saw the emails. I didn't see any email in there. He tried to help out the airline and said, well, maybe they sent it to another email. And I said, well, they only had one email, the email I made my reservation with. And they sent me my confirmation and my ticket to that email. So it would make sense that they would send the cancellation to the same email, which they didn't. But I'll say it here. It looks like I have a couple people offer me private flights to fly down. So it looks like I'm going to be flying down there tomorrow.
Nice.
Anyway, so it looks like we're still going to have I'm still going to be at the two rallies, and I'll find a way to get home somehow. So how are things over there in across the pond? I think you guys have it just about as bad as us, maybe worse in some regards.
I would say worse. I'm in touch with quite a few Canadians, and it seems like, there's some similarities with what's happening to you guys and to us, but I think we're really getting the brunt of it. We're really getting the brunt of it.
The problem with Canada is I'm waking people up too fast, so we're getting it the worst, I think, in all of North America. New York, for instance, is the first place in all of North America that implemented the vaccine passport. Today, this morning, it went into law.
They've got it.
Yeah, April 2nd, it went into law, and people have been calling it a conspiracy theory. I've been warning about it this whole time. And to me, that's their end game for this pandemic. The whole purpose of this pandemic was to institute this vaccine passport. Everything they've done to this point, every little restriction has been a step towards the vaccine passport. It started with masks, then business closures, contact tracing, forced quarantine. In Canada now, if we travel back to Canada, they make you take a PCR test before you get on the plane. Then when you land in Canada, they want you to take another PCR test, then get on a bus like you're a prisoner in a concentration camp and go to a so-called government-approved COVID hotel, which is nothing more than an internment camp. And you're supposed to stay there and wait for your test results. Now, if your test results come back negative, this is out. Now you have 2 negative COVID tests. They still force you to go back to your home and quarantine the remainder of your 14 days. And they tell you, and this is the thing, your thing's all about psyops tonight, right? I want to use that as an example to show people that this is a psyop. This is about control. This is not about your safety. They keep lying to you with the TV, the governments, their so-called professional medical experts. And the narrative is there's a very scary virus. It's very dangerous. And if you don't follow all the public health guidelines and comply with everything you're told, you're going to die, you're going to kill other people, and you're a horrible person. The reality is it has nothing to do with your safety. Every restriction, everything that's being instituted is nothing more than a control grid being set up around you, forcing you to give up your rights and freedoms for a perceived safety. And then once they're all gone, and once they get you onto that vaccine passport, you're never getting them back. It's very simple. Now that you've already given in to everything that they've asked for, when they come up with this vaccine passport, and they already have come up with it, when they implement it, they're going to force you to take a vaccine. They're going to say it's for travel, it's for your safety. And when they get enough compliance, 75% of the population, now it's going to become mandatory. Now you're not going to be able to travel domestically or internationally unless you submit to the vaccine. And then at that point, they're going to say, well, it made travel so much safer and so much more streamlined in our new normal. So it just makes sense that we expand it to work. We expand it to concerts. We expand it to gyms. So now your vaccine passport is part of your entire life. And you will not be able to travel. You will not be able to work. You will not be able to congregate, go to a concert, a sports match, or even your gym unless you're up to date on your shots. So now you're like a dog that needs to get a vaccine whenever they tell you. Because remember, you got to take 2 COVID shots and they only last for so long. So your vaccine passport's going to expire something like every 6 months.
Mate, it's 3 now. In the UK, they're talking about the third shot. They're already saying the second shot is not okay. It's not enough to get you that green card. It's not going to be enough to ensure that you can go international and you can be survive all the different strains. The third shot is already talked about. How long until they talk about the 4th shot?
Well, of course, once you have a 3rd shot, they're going to tell you you're going to need a booster shot. That's what they're going to say. They're going to say you need a booster shot. And then basically every 3-4 months, you're going to be getting injected with this RMNA concoction that's not even a vaccine. Let's be very clear. The Moderna and Pfizer injections are not vaccines. mRNA is not a vaccine. They literally call it an operating system.
Chris, can I just stop you a second there? What I'm going to have to do, I'm currently on 4 different channels of the stream. We are now into dangerous territory. I'm just going to have to turn off 3 of the others because I want to avoid strikes. So now we're telling the truth. What you're saying now is the God's honest truth, and they don't like it. The Soviet Union don't like us telling the truth. Guys, if you're watching on Facebook, you need to get over to YouTube, Rise Above Live, because this is not Facebook friendly. So let me just shut off the Facebook streams. Everyone that's on Facebook, please come over to Rise Above Live on YouTube. All right,
Chris is dropping
a second. Chris, you can carry on talking, mate. I just wanted to let everybody know. Rise Above Live. Head over there now.
We'll give everyone a second to catch up.
Yeah, we've got 150 people tuned in. We get about 1,500 to 2,000 tuned in a week. We are so lucky to have you, mate. You are so busy at the moment. You were hosting InfoWars the other night. Let me ask you, right? How did you come into this? Because I've seen you in a number of interviews. You've really caught my attention. When did you sort of rise into this position that you're in at the moment?
Well, I was in a unique position because I was traveling right when COVID happened. I flew into Venice for Carnival, literally the day that they canceled Carnival from Corona for the very first time in history. Like, they didn't even cancel it in the Spanish flu where we had like 7% of the population die, but they canceled it for COVID, which I already thought was very fishy. Then I started getting phone calls from all these people back home saying, oh my God, you're in Italy, you're going to die. There's a virus going around. Meanwhile, I'm at the gym, I'm at dinner, I'm just living like normal. And I go, you guys got to stop watching TV, man. It doesn't tell you the truth. It tells you lies to make you afraid. Why do they want you afraid? Because when you're afraid, you will listen listen to what they tell you to do. When you're afraid, you're paralyzed by fear. You won't act. You won't speak out. You'll just sit there. Literally, you'll sit there and let them close your business until it goes bankrupt because you're too afraid to literally go to work. So that's how powerful fear is. And that's why anytime you turn on the TV, it's going to try to tell you to be afraid. Be afraid and do what you're told.
And that's how this psyop works. In my opinion, this is what I would say is fear-based mind control or repetitive trauma-based mind control.
That's exactly what it is. It's 100% like any
scale. This is on a mass global scale.
Massive global psychological brainwashing campaign using lies and fear as their weapon, disseminated through the media, disseminated through the government. But like David Icke said, all you got to do to combat that is hit people on their heart chakra. And how do you do that? By telling the truth. When you tell the truth, people only need to hear it one time from one person, and that resonates and it wakes them up. And then they can't go back to sleep. And then that propaganda doesn't work anymore. Instead of making people afraid, it makes them angry. And when they're angry, they're more willing to act in their own best interest.
I find anger is a great tool.
That's what we need. If there was no anger, we wouldn't see millions of people rising up around the world against this. And we are seeing it. They're just not showing it on TV, of course.
So before this happened, before the Soviet Union rolled out this pandemic, whatever it is, I'm going to assume that you've been doing your homework for a number of years before
hell yeah.
to have this insight. Myself, I've been researching since 9/11, since the Twin Towers came down. I started off reading David Icke books, and then I sort of over 20 years reversed engineered all of those different subjects. What got you into all this?
Well, to be honest, it was pretty much the same thing. I was like 14 years old when 9/11 happened. I remember seeing it on TV and then going to high school right after. And like within a year, everyone was talking about it. And then I saw a video from Alex Jones. And
Yep.
that's who really got me into the truth movement. Like I'm talking almost 20 years ago now. And from then I was just always skeptical of government. I was always, what's the number one cause of death in the last 100 years? Democide. Government's killing its own people. Yet people believe everything the government tells them, and people believe that the government has their best interests in heart. Government killing its own people is the number one cause of death in the entire world in the last century. Let that sink in.
In history, it's the
history. Actually, yeah. If we go back, it's even worse. If we go back into further histories, but yeah, but people still believe the government, so it just makes absolutely no sense. Like, would you believe someone that lied to you every day? Would you believe someone that murdered more people than anybody else in the entire world?
This is what I said. I said this to someone in a shop the other week, and they said, "Why aren't you wearing a mask?" And I switched it backwards to them. I said, "Why are you wearing a mask?" They said, "Well, because I've been told to." I said, "Well, who told you?" And they replied. I said, "What? So you take health advice from professional liars and vaccine salesmen on the television?"
Yeah.
And they're like,
I bet they felt really stupid.
They probably thought I was crazy.
I did a video demonstrating mask-free shop. I made a bunch of them. One of them is just me going into like 10 different stores and teaching people how to go in there without a mask and not cause a problem. And another video, we actually started asking people wearing the mask why they're wearing the mask. The 3 answers I got were, one person said they were scared of the virus. That was like very rare. One person said they didn't want to get kicked out of the store. They didn't know the law. They didn't know about exemptions. Fair enough. Then the other person said they just want to follow the rules. So I tell you this, I understand you want to be a good person, you want to follow the rules, but when the rules are not in your best interest, when the rules are directly harming you, when the rules are putting your future into question, when the rules are going to make life untenable for your family, are you still going to follow them? How much are you going to keep following them?
I'm just going to say something. So on that note, okay, what I'm hearing a lot of here in the UK, especially from the baby boomer generation, right, is that it's because of the World War II privilege and all that, and the pride of World War II and all of that, which is hammered into the English people. I'm hearing a lot of, we've all got to do our bit. We've all got to make sacrifices. We've all got to do our bit for the greater good. It's always for the greater good.
That's complete bullshit. That's complete bullshit. And it's so easy. I already gave you an example of the hotel quarantine. And all you got to do to prove to people that this has nothing to do with their safety and everything to do with control is give them a couple examples of some of these so-called restrictions and some of these so-called things that we've had to give up for the so-called greater good, and show them that it doesn't make sense from a lens of safety, but it makes perfect sense when you look at it through a lens of control. Take the hotel quarantine. They try to tell you that you're safer getting on a bus full of potentially sick people, going to a facility full of potentially sick people for a day or two, then going home, versus just going into your own car by yourself and going home. Obviously, you're not safer in the first scenario, but if you look at it through a lens of we want to scare people from traveling and we want to control people, then it makes perfect sense. The most glaringly obvious reason that this is complete and utter bullshit is the fact that every single restriction the government writes up and puts upon the citizens, they are exempt from. So why do you have to give up this right and this freedom for the greater good and for the safety of everybody, but they don't? They can keep their rights and freedoms and they're perfectly safe. They don't have to go to quarantine. They don't have to close their business. They don't have to lose a paycheck. They don't have to get forcibly tested, et cetera, et cetera. None of that applies. Their gyms are all open, et cetera. They can go to in-room dining. Like, it's ridiculous.
None of them are on furloughed or 80% pay or no pay. Right.
In fact, in Toronto, we had a conservative MP, a guy by the name of Roman Baber, and he wrote a letter that basically showed all the ways that lockdown is worse than COVID. And we all know that. The consequences of lockdown are far worse than COVID. COVID's killing 90% of the people are 65 plus. They all have comorbidities. Meanwhile, we've had suicides rise over 100%. That's child suicides. So you're comparing the deaths of old, sick people to young, healthy people who had their whole lives ahead of them.
Self-harming has become a real problem
Domestic
in the UK.
abuse.
Yeah, domestic
abuse, friggin' overdoses, everything. Any type of social problem has gone through the roof because of COVID. Then you got all the business closures. That's the number one problem in Canada. 70% of our
liquor stores are still open. All the liquor stores are still open.
The liquor stores are owned by the government in Canada. So how are you like that?
Oh, right. So you have a system like in Sweden where
Can you guys hold on a second? I gotta take this call really
quickly.
No
problem, mate. I'll just put you back into the green rooms for a sec.
Yeah,
we're just gonna chat. Yeah, let's
wow, what a boom.
That was just some
how lucky are we to have Chris Sky dropping truth bombs like that? Spoken word node. What are you saying? What's that? No, Andy, bollocks. Yeah, sorry, we haven't got any Andy. Oma Beats couldn't make it tonight. Word nerd, you're back in the stream. You're on mute. Okay, he's not paying attention. Wow. Right, guys, if you want to ask Chris Sky a question, hashtag Q in the comment section, Q for question.
Yeah.
And any questions directed to Chris Sky, put them in the comment section and we'll try and get through them. I've got a couple of questions I want to ask him.
Yeah, we got
he's a machine, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
he's an absolute machine. I'm not surprised he's on the no-fly list. Wow. Boom. It's Friday night, everybody. Spoken word nerd. Are you listening? Word nerd. Word nerd. What's he doing? Chris Sky, he's back.
Sorry, guys.
No problem, mate. You're a very busy guy. Right. We're talking about psyops tonight. I'm going to ask you a question before we get some questions from our viewers. Do you think that this whole thing is a complete psyop? Is there a virus? Is there a pathogen? Or is it a confidence trick? Because some people literally think that flu has just been rebranded. There is no such thing as SARS-CoV-2. Myself, I've done the research into the Chinese communist scientist that created it. Is that a psyop? What are your opinions on it? How deep is this psyop?
To be honest, it really doesn't matter if there's a virus or not, because everybody believes there is, and they're using it to implement all these measures. I know that SARS-CoV-2 has never been isolated. We have papers from multiple countries that prove this. We know that they're calling so-called deaths from COVID really deaths with COVID, and that's a big difference, because up until 2020, anytime you died, the death from is the main cause. So if someone shot me in the head, they would say death from gunshot to head. If I also happened to have the flu when I died, they would say death from gunshot with flu. Flu was just another thing that I had. It didn't necessarily mean it even contributed to my cause of death. And in all of recorded human history, they only record the cause of death as the from, the main cause. Now with COVID, they altered the reporting guidelines all around the world, except in places like Asia. And that's why you see all these so-called COVID deaths, because now you have people that died from heart attack and they just say with COVID, and they don't even have to test for COVID. They could just, they could look at you and see symptoms. Sorry, go ahead.
In the UK, we have an even dumber system. On the news, on BBC, this is the way they report it. They don't say with COVID. They say this amount of people died within 28 days of a positive corona test for any reason. They literally say it for any reason, right?
Yeah, that's even dumber.
I did my digging into this, and I looked, and I found a document from the WHO, from Wuhan Hoax Organization, and I found out that under their own guidelines, there are two ways of going into that number within 28 days. The first is with a positive PCR test, right? Do you know what the second one is? No PCR test. Either unavailable, inconclusive, or there is no test. So we have 120,000 people that have died for any reason within 28 days of either having a bogus test or not even having a bogus test. So that is how ridiculous it is in this part of the COVID union. We have this number.
It's the exact same here. It's the exact same here. They don't even have to test you for COVID. They could just look at you and pretend and look for symptoms. So if somebody died of a heart attack and they had a runny nose, they'll say death from heart attack with COVID. And then it gets listed as COVID death. And then when you look at the COVID death chart, it has a little asterisk. And when you look at what the asterisk says, it says lists all causes of death, including those with COVID. And that's why all of a sudden, literally the flu no longer exists when we have over 650,000 people a year die from the flu. No, they're just reclassifying other deaths as COVID deaths. That's why if you look up the total causes of death in virtually any country between 2018 to 2020, you'll see a general uptick every year because more and more people are getting older around the world and more people are dying every year.
And there are more people, just more people.
Exactly. But you do not see a spike in overall deaths in the year of 2020 when you should and would if there was an actual pandemic. And then when you look at all the other causes of death, cancer deaths are down, strokes are down, heart attacks down, flu is non-existent. And then all of a sudden we have all these COVID deaths, but we have the same number of people dying. So it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, no sense at all. I mean, it
makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. They're lying. They're lying to manufacture a pandemic. Whether the virus is real or not, there could be coronaviruses are real. So for someone to say that you got COVID just means you got a coronavirus. Coronaviruses have been with us forever. So to say that someone got a coronavirus is pretty on the plum. And now they're talking about all these different. They talk about all these different variants. That's just another coronavirus.
I was just going to ask you, what is it in the deal over there in Canada? Have you got all these variants? We got variants coming left, right.
We have something called a double mutant variant. We've got a variant that's called the devil.
Yeah, they have that in California too. They give them these scary names to make you feel like you're in more trouble.
Right, Chris, have you noticed that the names of the mutant strains that are geographical also line up with the countries that rolled out the AstraZeneca, like Brazil, New Zealand, and South Africa? Those were the first 3 strains. Now, as we know, the AstraZeneca is different to we call it the glorious cure. We try to not say the V word, right?
It's an actual, at least it's an actual vaccine. The other 2 aren't even vaccines, but this has more side effects prevalent than the other 2. It's been banned by dozens of countries, including Canada. Go ahead.
Because that adenovirus, it's got this AD5 adenovirus, which is a recumbent chimpanzee virus, and there have been a lot of stuff linking that with the AIDS virus as well. I'm sure you know about that. I got a strike for making a whole video about the links between the vaccine, the virus, and that 80s virus. And I'm waiting until April the 6th for that strike to come away. Like that was a big strike on the station. It was like, you have done wrong. Don't tell the truth.
No, that's what always happens. I made a video called Vaccine Questions. Vaccine Questions. And I was talking about the mRNA vaccine. And I said, some questions to ask your doctor who has recommended this vaccine or mRNA injection for you. And I said, has it been FDA approved? No. Has it passed clinical trials? No.
Nope.
Is there any liability for the manufacturers if you die or are hurt? No. Will your life insurance company cover you after you've been vaccinated? Answer, probably not. It depends on the company. And then the last question is there any short-term or long-term safety or efficacy data with this so-called vaccine? Answer, no. So then you ask your doctor, how do you know if this is going to make me infertile, make me paralyzed, kill me, etc.? And they'll have to say, really, I don't know. And then you'll have to be able to ask them, then why are you recommending it for me? I made that video. It got first fact-checked, and it said false information, misleading information. Click here to see why. And when you click there to see
questions is false information.
Yes, wow. and when you click on the click here to see why, guess what came up? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, Chris, I got a strike. I got a strike for sharing a piece of accredited research from a Nobel Prize winner, and he won a Nobel Prize for his work into HIV. And I shared his article, and I didn't share anything that wasn't from the mainstream media or a peer-reviewed scientific article. And I got a community guideline strike for it.
Of course, because you're cutting through the propaganda. You use those articles in clips to show the truth. They use those articles in a context to promote an agenda. So if you alter the context of their propaganda to show people reality, they're not going to let you do that. That's exactly what we're trying to do. That's what David Icke has been trying to say to everybody. Everybody's perception is right here. They're doing this for our safety. It's for our own good. We got to alter their perception to over here. They're doing this to us to control us, and they're doing this to us to harm us. It's that simple. As soon as that person's perception is altered, the propaganda doesn't work. The fear doesn't work. They're not going to get a vaccine, etc. I started the Just Say No campaign. We got to talk about that because I've seen it actually in the UK already. I started it about maybe 2 weeks ago now, and I just made a video, hashtag Just Say No to the COVID vaccine, and I got thousands and thousands of people. I've seen Just Say No posts on 5 continents. The only place I haven't seen them yet is Africa, but I've seen them in Asia.
I've seen that hashtag Just Say No. It's going around, mate. You started that.
Yeah, that was me, brother.
Oh, fair play. Yeah. Oh, look, someone's in the comment section. We just scrolled up to a comment from about 20 minutes ago.
Clara Warren.
Big up Clara Warren, one of our very regular viewers. Just Say No. We did have a question on the screen a second ago from Buddy directly for Chris.
Go ahead.
It was about There it is. Question: has Chris looked into the mysterious brain virus outbreak in New Brunswick? Sadly, 5 deaths and around 40 cases.
I heard about that. It's friggin' scary. I wanted to go down to New Brunswick, but the last time I went down there, they arrested me right off the plane. The RCMP, which is like the Canadian FBI, they literally kidnapped me off the plane.
Really? That was going to be my next question to you. Now, I'm sure you've been censored online. You said about your problem with flying. My next question was going to be, have you had any problem with the authorities and the law so far?
Oh my God, yeah. So I went to Ireland in September 12th. I went to Dublin to speak and warn them that they were going to be putting them in lockdown on the 20th. Everybody thought they're going to open their pubs and give them back their freedom on the 20th. I said, no. They're going to introduce a 5-stage lockdown. They're going to tell you you're in level 2, and they're going to tell you they're putting you back to level 3 instead of going up to level 1. People thought I was batshit crazy. Then I stayed there till the 20th, waited for the lockdown to be instituted, and then I left. When I tried to leave Ireland, I found out at the airport somebody had put an illegal block on my passport, which is ridiculous. When KLM tried to scan my passport, it was like a movie. The computer literally crashed. And we had to call their tech support department, and their tech support department found an illegal electronic block. They wouldn't tell me who put the block on, but they did tell me that there was 2 encrypted messages attached to the block. One said anti-masker, and the other one said extra security procedures. But they had to remove the block because I'm a Canadian citizen that was just trying to fly home. So they removed it, and I flew home. When I came home, the authorities knew I had to speak at a protest in about 5 or 6 days. So they came to my house the day before to try to make sure I was going to do my quarantine and threatened to arrest me if I went to the protest. I went to the protest anyway, called them out. They ended up waiting for the mainstream media to arrive, and then they gave me one of those stupid fines in front of the media. I looked at the fine, and these fines are all fake, by the way. Every single one of our fines will get thrown out because they're all a violation of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I told them that, and I said, I want to get a fine because I want to challenge it in court, and I want to prove this is bullshit.
How much was the fine?
$880. But here's the kicker. They misspelt my first and my last name on the ticket, and they know me very well. So the idea that they did that is absolutely it was ridiculous. And the reason they did it is because now I couldn't challenge the ticket. So I went back up on the stage, and I called out the police, and I told everybody in a public speech that they gave me the wrong name on the ticket on purpose because they didn't want me to go to court. And I asked them to give me a new ticket. They didn't. So the next week, I was still on quarantine. I went back to the protest to double down. This time, Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada, was there, and Mr. Rob Carbone, who is starting the Republican Party of Canada, which is going to be registered in about 6 to 8 weeks, is going to be a new powerhouse right-wing party in Canada. It's going to be a favorite for the new election. He was there. You think the police would tell these 2 leaders of political parties that I'm a quarantine risk? No, we're hugging, we're holding hands, we're taking pictures together. And they didn't say anything. The next day, I had the police show up at my house and issue me a summons. I'm the first person in the history of Canada to get charged criminally under the Quarantine Act. So they gave me this summons, and I videotaped the whole thing. And guess what? They spelled my name wrong again.
How did they spell what? Sky or Chris?
No, my last name isn't Sky. That's my company name.
Just
I own a company called Sky Homes. It's a residential building and development company. So people have been calling me Chris Sky since I was a child. My last name is Saccoccia, which means pocket in English. I'm Italian. But they misspelled my first name and my last name again. This time I had it on video, and I made them correct it on video on the summons because I wanted to go to court. And I've been to court 4 times so far, and they just keep postponing it. They won't give me a disclosure. They won't give me a trial because they know I'm going to eviscerate them.
I'm in the same boat, brother. Same thing with me.
As soon as we win, all their other it sets precedent to throw out all the other charges, and that's what they don't want. So then when they saw that I was doing that, they're like, we got to turn up the heat on this guy. So I was scheduled to speak in New Brunswick, where they have that brain disease now. It's the east coast of Canada. And it got very popular when people found out I was coming. So they added a second day in Halifax, which is the province over. And I was supposed to go New Brunswick to Halifax one day after the other. As soon as I landed in New Brunswick, the Canadian FBI, the RCMP, just stormed the plane with 4 people. They didn't even let it go to the jetway. They handcuffed me. They put a mask on me. They arrested me. They brought me straight to jail. Somebody made a phone call on my behalf, thankfully, and they were forced to let me out. They had to give me an escort back to the airport. I got on a plane back to Toronto, and all the charges that they give me, they dropped like within 2 weeks. They called me on my cell phone. Imagine you get a call from like the FBI private number. Hi, sorry we kidnapped you the other day. We're going to be dropping all the charges. We apologize. Have a nice day.
If you think that's weird, how long ago we were streaming on a Friday night in one of our early streams, stream number 3. This is number 22. This is when I was speaking out at the protest like you, not on the scale that you're doing. the police came to my parents' house
While
we were streaming. I haven't lived with my parents for almost 20 years, and my parents are in their 70s. The police know my address. They were watching the stream, and they knew that if they turned up here, we would obviously put the camera in their face. And they went to my parents' house and warned me, don't go and speak at the protest.
Wow.
And and within 5 minutes of standing on the bench and speaking, I went there with spoken word. I'll just get our other team member in as well. Big up spoken word. No, welcome to the stream.
What's up, brother?
Yeah, and we went there, and I got arrested within 5 minutes. Incitement to conspire others to break COVID regulations.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Conspiracy to incite others to break COVID regulations. A £10,000 fine was what they were trying to get me on. Now they've dropped it down to 200, and I'm not taking that. I said no, not having it. Push it back to July. They're just trying to stop me from speaking.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. They literally arrested me to prevent me from speaking. And then when I got back to Toronto, we told everybody we wanted to do a Santa Claus parade. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bad echo.
Oh, one sec. Let me get rid of word nerd. He creates an echo. I apologize.
Right. So yeah, the biggest event we have in Canada every year is the Santa Claus parade. Echo's still there, guys.
One sec. The auto echo cancellation should sort it out in a second. Just carry on speaking and it will sort it out.
So I went in a speech publicly and I told Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, we're going to have a Santa Claus parade whether you like it or not. They went crazy. We made groups on Facebook talking about it. They took the groups down. I got calls through back channels telling me that if I tried to do the parade, I was going to get charged with some terroristic style charge, similar to what they tried to do with you. But they said they were going to arrest me without bail and hold me till my trial. And take me off the board. What was their words? I ended up getting a deal made that I could do the parade, and we ended up getting the full support of law enforcement. So in the middle of a lockdown with no permits, we had an actual 30-foot long parade floats, hundreds of people, 500 toys to give away to the kids, a professional Santa, and they blocked off Yonge Street, which is the longest street in North America, from the main square at Yonge and Dundas all the way up to Yonge and St. Clair, both sides, both streets, and we had a full-out police escort, over 200 officers involved. Of course, I got charged for that one, too, but I didn't give a shit. I have to still go to court. Then January 23rd, I took a whole bunch of protesters downtown, and they put an emergency order on top of the emergency order. So now anybody that spoke at the protest would get arrested. So I told everybody, it's not protest. Let's just go for a walk downtown Toronto. We can't do anything for that. And what we did, hundreds of people went in the stores and started shopping mask-free. It caused pandemonium in the city because they were sending cops everywhere. The cops couldn't do anything because no one's breaking any laws. But after it was all said and done, sure enough, when I walked back to my car, I got arrested by a whole bunch of cops. They gave me a bunch of bogus charges. They put me on some crazy conditions. They tried to ban me from the city of Toronto, tried to force me to give up my legally owned firearm, and then they have me on a condition that I have to abide by the emergency orders. So if I breach quarantine, if I go to a protest, I do anything, I can get arrested with a criminal charge.
Yeah, well, I've been told that if I get arrested while I'm on this bail, that would be offending on bail. So if I went to a protest and tried to speak, that I would
breach of condition, same thing,
and I'd be put on remand. So they would actually hold me indefinitely. Yeah. How long have you been held by the police? What's the longest time for this so far?
Oh, just for the night, and then I got out. But what they did something way worse than that. Just the other day, because I came back from Turkey at the end of February, right when they started doing the hotel quarantine thing. So when I landed,
I'm just trying to sort out this echo. I apologize, bro. We keep hearing the echo. Let me just kick you out.
You want me to stop? You want? Yeah, kick me out.
Right, well, you're back in now.
I apologize. Still there for some reason. Let me see if I could get rid of it. Hello? Hello? Now I can't hear anybody.
Sorry, I muted myself. I was trying to get rid of the echo. You carry on, bro.
Is it still there? No? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better. We've got comments. It's better. We can hear you. Sound good.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So I was coming back from Turkey. Everybody's scared of this hotel quarantine and the forced testing, which they're using to try to make people accept the vaccine passport, which they otherwise wouldn't. So I came back from Turkey. I was at Toronto Airport. I don't wear a mask anywhere I fly, by the way, because I have a medical condition. I have a medical note. So I've been to 4 continents through COVID without wearing a mask. I landed. I started filming. And I made a video to show everybody that we have rights as Canadian citizens, and they cannot force test us. They cannot forcibly put us in a hotel quarantine. So I walked up to the police and the quarantine officer, and I said, I'm a Canadian citizen. This is a violation of Section 6 of our Charter rights and Section 14.1 of the Quarantine Act. I'm going to be declining your test. I'm going to be declining your quarantine, and I'd like to go home. And rather than wait in a 3-hour line, let them stick something up my nose and then get put on a bus, concentration camp bus, to an internment camp, I got a little piece of paper, stupid fine, and I got to go home. And now everybody in Canada is doing that when they come back from vacation. Hundreds and thousands of people have been declining the test, declining the quarantine, and coming up with these fines that'll never hold up in court. And that's where I did that, and I made the Just Say No movement. And within a week of me doing that, guess what happened? I was driving home from the gym around midnight because I train usually really late. I got pulled over by 3 cruisers, state police equivalent, on our highway on the way home. They said it was for an identity check. They kept me there for like 10, 15 minutes with 3 cars.
Just a routine identity check. Just
a routine identity check at like midnight, just driving on the highway. That happens to everybody. Then they said there was no problem, no issue, no infraction. I'm good to go. So they said I could go home. I go home. I live on about 5 acres in a rural area. I have to park outside of my gate and get out of the car and open it manually. So I was parked outside of my gate, and I was answering a few things on Instagram before I got out of the car. And then someone walked up to my car with a flashlight. I rolled down the window, and it was a plainclothes guy. And he's like, I'm Detective so-and-so. You're under arrest. Get out of the car. Right away, I knew this was not a political arrest warrant, or not a police arrest warrant. Because if I had just got pulled over by the police, if I had an arrest warrant, they would have told me and they would have arrested me right there 10 minutes ago.
Sure.
So I knew this had no warrant. This was not a police thing. This was 100% a political Gestapo hit job. So I told this guy, there's no way I'm getting out of the fucking car and I'm not under arrest. So get off my property. And he tried to repeat that I was under arrest to get out of the car. I tried to get out of the car on the other side so I could run on my property and like lock the gate behind me. And when I got out of the car, I realized there was a lot more police there. They tried to grab me. I threw them off and I jumped back in the car and I closed both doors and tried to lock it, but the window was open on the far side. So he kept unlocking it and they kept trying to open both doors. So I was like in a horror movie trying to slam these doors shut where I have literally about a dozen cops trying to grab at me through the windows. So I jumped in the back seat of the truck, which was only a 2-door, and I started filming on live. And now that I had these assholes on live, I started calling out all their bullshit. I started asking people to call my lawyer. I gave out my address. I told Canadian patriots to show up at my house. The police used around 15 to 20 cop cars and cruisers and SUVs. They blocked off an entire 4-way intersection, and then they blocked off the entire other side of the street with around a 500 foot length to block off my house. And then they had all other cars lined up along the road. And they had completely put off access to my house to have me isolated. And there were between 30 and 40 cops there and 15 to 20 cruisers. And they were trying
enemy of the state business.
Yeah, 100%, man.
They were literally trying to kidnap me in the middle of the night off my property and do it in a way where no one could see what would happen to me and no one would be able to help me, and they'd have no recourse for their actions. But I wouldn't get out of the car. I stood strong, and there's so many people showed up. They had no choice but to they issued me a promise to appear, and I was forced to sign it under duress, and I actually signed it duress. And then I jumped out of the car just as literally dozens of Canadian patriots and tow trucks and cars came blaring down the street. And you've never seen police turn tail and run so fast. They all ran into their cars and they all sped out of there as fast as physically possible.
Power in numbers, bro. That's what it's about.
That's what it is about. And that's what I call united non-compliance. That's my tagline I created last year. And what it means is it doesn't matter your age, your ethnicity, where you're law enforcement, government, civilian, criminal, it doesn't matter. We all have rights. We all have freedoms. And these rights and freedoms are essential. So when we can all agree on a genuine and just cause and come together for that cause, there's nothing that can stop us. And the only way out of this is by not complying. Everybody tries to say, oh, comply. That's how we get out of this. The non-compliers are the ones prolonging this. No, it's the complete opposite. The end game is the vaccine passport. In order to get you to step 10, they got to bring you step 1 through 9. And when you comply, they bring you to the next step. When you comply, they bring you to the next step. As soon as you say no and you don't comply, boom, the agenda stops. And now you can start going the other way and getting your rights and freedoms back. So for all you pussy bitches out there that are pretending compliance is a virtue, no, you're just cowards. You don't want to take responsibility. You want to pretend like everything's okay when it isn't. We still have people in denial in Canada pretending that we haven't given up our rights and freedoms because they can go to McDonald's drive-thru. Are you absolutely insane? Look at yourselves in the mirror and remember one thing. Everything that's happening right now is your fault because you are allowing it. The government will impose regulations on you to the fullest extent that you allow. There's a reason why London, Toronto, and New York are locked up tighter than an asshole. Meanwhile, places like Texas and Florida that love their guns and love their freedom are wide open for business like COVID doesn't exist.
And we have no guns at all, apart from a couple of farmers with double-barreled shotguns. Like
exactly. Well, even your police don't have guns except for the special units, right?
Yeah.
Our police have guns. Those 40 cops that were at my house all had guns. And believe me, they wanted to use them on me. But
sure.
Screw those guys.
I hope you've got some guns as well, bro.
I have a lot of guns. I think that's one of the reasons.
If I was lucky enough to live in North America, Canada, the States, I'd have a shitload of guns.
Yeah, I've been shooting since I was about 3 years old. So,
right, I want to pick up on something you said there. You said that you think the end game of this is the vaccine passport.
Well, that's the end game. That's the end game to bring us into this new normal, but that's not the real end game. Because once they got you on the vaccine passport and they've taken all your rights and freedoms, they've already made the digital ID in Canada. It went live January 2021.
Right. So we're talking ID 2020, right? We're talking about ID 2020. This
exactly. And it went into place. So now they're going to merge your vaccine passport with your digital ID. And at first, it's going to be on your smartphone. Eventually, it's going to be right on you. And you're going to have to scan your smartphone everywhere you go to prove that you've been up to date on your vaccines, prove you don't have any record, prove you're not wanted by the state, prove you haven't been talking to anybody like me. And then once they got you on the digital ID and the vaccine passport, they're going to bring out their digital currency, which they've already said that they're going to do. Now, when they have you on a digital currency with your digital ID and vaccine passport, every single transaction you make will be seen by the state, will be taxed by the state, will be traced by the state, and will have to be approved by the state. You won't even be able to sell a pair of used shoes on Kijiji or Craigslist or any of those. You won't be able to do anything without the government knowing and the government having to give you permission. And then the final nail in the coffin, after they've done all that to you and you think they can't do any more, will be the Chinese-style digital social credit system.
There it is. You've gone for the money shot. That's it.
That's the final nail in the coffin. Because that way they can completely control your behavior and your thoughts and your actions. You won't even think to watch a show like this. You won't even think to take a picture with a guy like me. You won't even think to interact with me in any way because you know if they see your little credit score comes down, at first you won't be able to travel internationally. Then you won't be able to travel domestically. Then you won't be able to work. And then they just cut off your account altogether and you're dead.
Probably no internet. No bank loans, no public transport. You're basically being a complete pariah. Right now on this show, you don't have to pull any punches here, Chris. Our viewers are literally directly at the bottom pit of the rabbit hole of what's really going on. Great Reset, Lord Schwab, nanotech. Check this out.
People are in denial of the Great Reset. Meanwhile,
I know they think it's a conspiracy theory, mate.
The World Economic Forum is titled the Great Reset. That's the official name for it. And people say it's a conspiracy theory. It blows my mind. It's absolute lunacy. And they literally are on video telling you by 2030, you will own nothing.
And nothing. You'll be happy. You'll be happy, Chris. Yeah. How happy will you be when you own nothing? I'm not going to be very happy about that.
Well, are they trying to push universal income through in England?
UBI is being talked about. I think it's Germany and a couple of other European countries are further down that rabbit hole than we are.
They're already trying to push it through Parliament in Canada because in Canada, the entire economy is our small businesses. 97% of all businesses are small businesses. 70% of all our jobs are small businesses. By July of last year, the CFIB, which is the Canadian Federation of Businesses, said 225,000 businesses were already gone for good. That's almost 20% of our business. That was July last year. As of January 2021, they said another 200,000 to 300,000 would be dead by this summer. And guess what? This week, they're locking us down again to close all the businesses and make sure they all go broke. Why? So they could say, oh my God, there's so much unemployment that we need a universal basic income for all these poor people that are out of work. In reality, the government is the one that put them out of work on purpose. Because if you own a business and you employ others, you and the people you employ are independent. You make money. You add to the GDP. The government works for you. If your business is now closed and you rely on the government to give you a paycheck called universal basic income every month, they do not serve you anymore. They rule you. And when they tell you get your vaccine or you're not going to get your paycheck, guess what? You're going to get your vaccine. And now you're literally a serf with no rights at all. Period.
Well, what we have in the UK at the moment, which I think is the precursor for the UBI, the Universal Basic Income, it's called the furlough scheme.
Yeah, that's they have the same. It's here. It's called CERB. In the United States, they call it stimulus, welfare, whatever you want to call it.
The government actually paid. Like, I'm an employer. I employ 6 people in my day job, and you know, the phone wasn't ringing. I furloughed some of them. The employer claims the money from the government and then pays 80% of their wages. Some people in the UK have not worked a day since this started in March last year. They've been furloughed for the entire time. So that's now 12 whole months of sitting at home, getting 80% of your regular wage paid directly into your bank for doing absolutely nothing.
And you can also get things like KFC on tick now. You don't even have to pay for it. You can sit on your
Zilch.com,
not work, get paid to get fat.
Yep, that's what they want. If you notice, every one of their so-called public health measures is something that'll make you unhealthy.
It's anti-health measures.
Like, you think wearing a mask 10 hours a day is going to make you healthy? You think staying home, staying out of the sun, not interacting with people is going to make you healthy? You think not going to the gym is going to make you healthy? You think eating drive-through and drinking booze is going to make you healthy? Obviously not. They want you as weak, fat, lazy, stupid as possible because that's the easiest way to control you. They don't want you strong and smart. It's that simple. But guys, I got to get going because my phone is blowing up. I missed like 20 calls.
No problem.
I had
Chris,
food
what size
to my house.
t-shirt?
I made them put it outside. It's literally just sitting there, probably getting eaten by animals. So I gotta go.
What size t-shirt, bro? They're quite
for
fitted.
me.
Yeah. You've got to have a t-shirt. I'll post it to you. What size?
Send me a medium or a large, brother. I'll wear it next time I do a live for you guys.
Thank you so much for being on the show. How can people get hold of you and hear more of your stuff?
I'm on Instagram. I just hit 200,000 followers today at Real Chris Sky, verified. I'm on Twitter, Chris Sky. I'm on Facebook, Chris Sky, and I'm on Telegram at Real Chris Sky, all capitals, or it doesn't come up. Telegram's my favorite because it's uncensored, so sometimes I put exclusive stuff on there. Instagram is where I'm obviously the most active because I have the biggest following, but I'm still pretty much active on all the social medias.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Guys,
again,
my pleasure. Everybody needs to stand together. We need to understand that this is a global thing and it requires global solution. And the global solution is, I said this yesterday I actually got to host the Alex Jones show, by the way. They called me back and told me to be a guest host because I was doing so well as a guest. So I hosted my first ever InfoWars show just a couple days ago, and they let me talk about whatever I want. And I said, 2020 was the year of the awakening when we woke everybody up. Now we're a quarter of the way through 2021, and that's fine. It took some people to catch up. Now we don't need people speaking and marching at the protests anymore. I'm the main speaker of the protests in Toronto. I'm the one telling you this. Now is the time for organization and implementation. It's time to take action. It's the next phase of united non-compliance. The last phase is holding these assholes accountable. But we already awoke everybody. We don't need me speaking at the protest telling people what they already know. What you got to do at the protest now, with the thousands and thousands of people you have, is organize into groups. A group of people that are concerned parents that are going to sue the school board to get rid of the masks. A group of business owners that are going to band together and stay open and overwhelm the Gestapo that's going to try to shut them down. A group of other concerned employees that are going to sue their employers and their unions to make sure vaccines do not become mandatory. And then a group of people who can go shopping mask-free in all the stores. When you organize into these groups and you work in individual groups and each group has their own mission, these attacks are what are going to make the things go in our favor. And the most important thing for everyone in these groups is every single person at the protest in these groups, their mission before the next protest is not just waking people up, it's to make sure they bring at least one more person to the protest with them the next time. I don't care if you have to talk to 20 businesses to get one more business owner to come with you. If everybody does that, if we organize into the business owners, the concerned parents, the concerned employees, and then the concerned citizens, and we do exactly what I said, within weeks, this is over with. Period.
Man, this is why we got him on the show. A guy with solutions. Not just explaining the problem. You've got to bring solutions. Chris Sky, you are a soldier. You're a part of the Rise Above family right now, mate. Thank you very much.
Enemy of the
Love
state.
you guys. Anytime you want me on the show, you know how to reach me. I'll come on, I'll talk. Whenever I got something important to say, I'll even let you guys know and tell you I should come on your show.
Awesome.
Mate, please send me your address. A Rise Above t-shirt is going to be on its way to you next week.
Awesome. I'm going to type in the chat right here.
Okay.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you again. And we would love to have you back, Chris.
For sure, bro. Anytime. You guys are amazing.
All right. So, guys, that was Chris Sky. I want to say thank you again. Everyone in the chat room.
Come follow me. We need as much support as we can all around the world. Everybody needs to wake everybody up. If you're awake, it is your civic duty to wake up others. You cannot stay awake and pretend like you can just keep your head down and you're going to be okay. No, nobody's going to be okay. They're coming for everybody. Like, seriously.
Yep. I love you guys. Right. I love you too, Chris Sky. Thank you again, brother, and we'll see you soon. A Rise Above t-shirt is on its way to you.
Take care of yourself, soldier.
You guys as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
We always do, mate. See you soon, brother.
Wow.
Whoa. Click, click,
that
boom.
Was serious bombs.
That was serious. Spoken word nerd. Don't give us the echo. Just give us the good.